Hit the record button. We're good to go live.
Thank you, everyone, and welcome to today's January TMAC meeting. Let's go ahead and begin with introductions. I'm Joy McMurray, TMAC Chair.
I'm Hamula, TMAC member.
Lisa Jensen.
I'm the Planning Commission rep, a TMAC member.
Clancy Black, TMAC member. Bowden Golding, Development Services.
Andrew Bishio, Development Services.
David Mickelson, engineering.
Joseph Gandy, Public Works.
Judy Johnson, engineering.
Gordon Haight, engineering.
Kehan Shore, engineering. Javin Weaver, development services.
McCord Lesko, Development Services.
Shauna Meekum, Mountain Land Association of Government.
Jeff McLaughlin, I'm a TMAC member.
David Hurtado, I'm a TMAC member.
Well, thank you so much. We will begin with item 2 today, approving minutes from our December meeting. Hopefully you've had a chance to look over those. I'm happy to go ahead and motion that we approve those minutes.
I will second that. Oh, Clancy beat me.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Then we'll jump right into number 3. Gordon, let's go ahead and talk about our schedule for the year.
So we had a request to take a look at the schedule from the administration. And so what we want to do is make sure we don't interfere with, we want to make sure that all the TMAC members can come. But we were looking at switching you guys to Wednesday. And so I want to know, nothing fun ever happens on Wednesday, and we can change that here today. No, so I'm here to see what your thoughts are Wednesday at noon. Just kind of get a feel from the.
Those are planning commission days.
The same week of the month, because planning commission is the 2nd and 4th.
Right, we would alternate it with the.
So it would be
planning commission. That way, every one of your Wednesdays would have something fun to do. That's what I was looking for.
Looking for Wednesday.
Now, there may be some times that, because it kind of switches, but we'll try to keep it alternate every other Wednesday. We knew it was planning commission, and so. Anybody else? Yes.
It's harder, but it's not a problem.
Okay.
I can make that work.
Yeah, the next 2 months, I might need to zoom in instead, but I could.
Okay, so what we'll do is I'll bring a new schedule where for the year, where we're looking at planning commission, which has already been set, and then we'll line it out for the year, and you'll need to make a motion to approve the new schedule. We're required to approve schedules, so.
We should probably check with Greg as well.
Okay.
Since he's not here today, he may, he's a professor, he might have a class then, I'm not
Let's give him a call, and I guess today you're not making any motion, but what I'm saying is if it works for him, I'll bring back. If it doesn't, we may have to have more discussion, so.
That's something that needs to be noticed in order for us to vote on it too.
Yeah, because I was bringing to you a little bit cold, you didn't have a chance to talk about it. I didn't want it on the agenda for a vote. I'd rather have this discussion, and then we'll bring it next meeting for a vote.
So when will the next meeting be?
So it would still be Thursday in February.
It's set the way it is till you make,
Yeah. Okay.
So right now, everything's set until we make that motion, so. I'll report back, and the administration's still good with that. We'll,
What's the date on that?
the next one?
I apologize, I don't have my calendar handy. Anybody can beat me pulling that.
The
16th.
16th.
16th is the next one. We'll let you know, and we'll try to make it so it's consistent. And that'll work out. And it'll be the same time. That was my whole presentation. Thanks.
Great. Then we can zoom right on to item 4. Shauna Meekum will be presenting to us about the Carterville Trail. Okay, let me share my screen real quick. I think first off, who all is familiar with MAG? Okay, wonderful. I think I will play this video. It's only a couple minutes long, just describing what MAG does as a whole. You're probably familiar with the transportation side of things, maybe like Meals on Wheels, but if the sound works, we'll go through this fun video to add to the fun meeting, and then I'll talk about Carterville and some regional projects.
The only thing that would be better is if it was on a Wednesday. There you go. So just like, can't have every.
That's what I'm looking
Yes.
for. Like that teamwork.
Okay. No, that video.
Okay, you know what, the sound, I'm not sure the sound's gonna work. Are there any?
You want, okay.
Yeah, if you could pull that up real quick. It's,
Okay.
if you just go to the YouTube channel with MAG's, website, search for MAG on YouTube. Yes, we do have, I will be talking about Carterville. The Carterville bike ride, I went on at the beginning of the summer with folks from Provo and Orem, and Ben McMurray, he was the, like, Carterville neighborhood sort of representative. So I did try to get citizens involved as well. I guess we noted, myself and Jim Price, who's really the active transportation guru at MAG, and Aaron, we'd all said, you know what, Carterville Road is a great route to get from Provo to Orem, north to south, and it would be wonderful if it were actually designated as such. Ben McMurray noted on our bike ride that he lives in the neighborhood, and people are always very polite on that road, even though it's rather small and narrow, because it's all neighbors driving through. It's a pretty friendly place to be, even though you're mostly in the lane, you know, jogging or biking, whatever, pretty close to traffic. Thank you so much, King.
MAG, or Mountain Land Association of Governments, was created in 1972 as one of 7 associations of governments dedicated to collaboration and offering regional services between the counties of Utah. MAG is committed to improving the lives of residents throughout Summit, Utah, and Wasatch counties. The services that MAG offers include aging and family services, Meals on Wheels, low-income utility relief and weatherization programs, community and economic development, and regional planning. Aging and family services provide families and individuals the resources needed to navigate the nuances of advancing age. If you or a loved one needs assistance during the transition to senior life, MAG offers Medicare counseling to help in understanding your insurance options. As a caregiver, you can access the Caregiver Support Program. MAG also has some great volunteer programs, including Friendly Callers, or you can join Meals on Wheels by delivering home and community meals to those who care for hometowns. The HEAT program provides utility payment assistance to help low-income individuals, families, elderly and disabled residents to meet higher costs of energy. Our weatherization program can help with upgrading, repairing, or replacing items in a home that impact energy costs. We also offer a home safety assessment and checklist designed to help eliminate hazards in your home. We work with our member jurisdiction to provide community and economic development opportunities. MAG administers the Community Development Block Grant, or CDB program, which works to build viable communities by providing critical services to the most vulnerable, supporting community improvement, and developing projects that create and maintain affordable housing. The Mountain Land Economic Development District advances economic growth and opportunity by bringing together professionals at a regional level, preparing a 5-year strategy for the district, and facilitating federal economic investment in our communities. MAG further supports economic growth through a small business loan fund, with loans available to new and expanding businesses that create and retain jobs in local communities. MAG is the regional transportation planning group for the region and is organized as the Metropolitan Planning Organization for Utah County and the Rural Planning Organization for Wasatch County. This allows for regional decision makers and the Utah Department of Transportation to have a voice in the process to plan and fund regional transportation projects. We directly contribute over $25 million annually to regional transportation projects in Utah County and partner with our jurisdiction to further transportation choice and connectivity within our high-growth region. We developed for Utah County the Regional Transportation Plan, or TransPlan 50, the plan promotes working together with our partners to help move towards a unified vision of transportation in our area. For example, in regards to public transit, we partnered with UTA to construct the Front Runner and the Utah Valley Express. With the Utah Department of Environmental Quality, we help ensure that air quality and emission standards for all regional transportation projects are met in the city. This was for 80 miles of existing trails, like the Murdoch Canal Trail and the Utah Lake Shore Trail. MAC also plans to deploy new trails all over the county, providing safer corridors for pedestrians and bicycles. With collaboration, we can provide those expert resources and help enrich lives through the services that offer.
Thank you so much. I love that MAC does these very kind of different things, but in reality, everything's connected, right? Are senior citizens, and do they have transit service, and are their homes safe? Like, we get to affect a lot of these positive things, which I really love working at MAC. I think, are there any questions in general about MAC? Great. So the things that you've probably been aware of and familiar with are the transportation improvement program. So that's kind of near-term funding. The cities, we help cities submit projects, and then we, with the city managers, whittle out the list, and then all the mayors in our county vote on that list. And the UBX 900 East Station was #1 this go around, so good job. We also do the long range transportation plan, goes out to 2050. We're in the process of updating this right now, but if you want an old copy, and if I get boring, you know, you can flip through that. And we're also working on transportation and land use plans where they connect. So the station area plans, MAG has provided, or the state has provided, and MAG has allocated some funding for those as well. And Provo's totally on top of that, so that's great. So the Carterville's potential, as I was saying earlier in 2022, we had a fun bike ride. MAG's, one of our main things is collaborating and working across boundaries, especially for transportation projects. So we said, hey, let's get Orem and Provo together and do a fun bike ride on a beautiful, possible future transportation route. I have it kind of highlighted on that right map. That's generally where Carterville is. And this is, I know that these are out of date, but this has been on the Provo's bike plan in 2013. And then it was kind of designated as, well, half of it's in Orem. It kind of goes along the Provo-Orem boundary for a bit. And then in Provo, it was shared bike lanes. I don't know if that's true anymore, but it's been thought about since 2013 at least. And then in the appendix of the transportation plan in 2020, it's also there. And I really like how on the right, you can see that you did some intersection analysis and said, hey, these spots are quite unpleasant. So something to take a closer look at. And so again, so everyone has a feel for where we're looking. Awesome. You're probably already familiar with this, but bike boulevards or neighborhood byways or whatever you want to call them, Provo has the best examples in the county of things where this works. What I like is that, for example, on Orem's plan for Carterville, it says we're going to do a separate multi-use path. That's not going to happen until my kids are grown up. Whereas bike boulevards are relatively easy. It's paint, and intersection fixes, and some signs. You want them on streets that are already fairly quiet, and that Carterville, for most of its length, is a prime example of that. Another thing I love, and something that makes this regionally significant, something that MAG should, can nudge along perhaps, is that it connects so many things. Starts at Provo, Riverwoods Mall. You have those lovely trails behind Riverwoods and Provo Trail. It intersects with Palisade Drive, which has lovely bike lanes and speed bumps and is a bike route. Crosses 3700 North. Again, that connects to other cool trails, the Lover's Lane Trail. And then we have the College Connector Trail, and it ends near, and again, this ending point should be something that Provo has decides, but it ends in Grandview near Cougar Boulevard. There are several bike lanes or future bike lanes in that area that it can connect into. So I think some of the reasons it's been kind of overlooked, or perhaps because it starts in Provo, wiggles along the Provo-Orem boundary, ends in Provo, so it's kind of like, this is regional, I know what my city wants, what does your city want? And that's where MAG maybe can help. I hope we have helped. Again, you're familiar with this. This is what bike boulevards look like. They usually end up being pretty pleasant. MAG has also helped develop wayfinding for trails, and you might use this on the boulevard as well, but to help people understand that, hey, if you start off on the Carterville Trail way up near Riverwoods, you can actually get way down to Carterville Park in Provo. You can hook into the College Connector that'll get you to our wonderful universities. So having something like this is a pretty low dollar way to say, hey, residents, community members, there is much more to explore here. Yes. Is that something that MAG helps fund, or Provo would help fund, or? So MAG helps develop the basic template and guidance, and we actually got a grant from Utah Outdoor Recreation grant to sign all of the Provo River Trail. We also did the Spanish Fork River Trail at that time in a couple of spots. So MAG can facilitate and help look for grants. But I think it ended up being maybe $6,000 for Provo segment for the signs and some in-kind contributions with installation, but it wasn't a break the bank project, especially for a trail that long. Low vehicle speeds and volumes. There are speed bumps on the road. You can see the citizens have asked for a little speed visualization. Yes, thank you. Provo does have wider lanes in its area. There are more homes alongside, on-street parking. So I'd say that the route as a whole, very viable. You'll probably want to do something on the Provo section to make it more comfortable. Street crossings, and these two spots were mentioned in the 2020 appendix. Carterville and State Street is marked as a critical barrier on your plan. And then the 3700 North, it is in Orem, it's so wide. The Orem's engineer and other staff members have said, yeah, we could, if it goes through the process, we could put a hawk signal up there. There isn't another good crossing of that steep, fast, high volume road for about half a mile on either side. So something should be done there. And I'll be presenting to Orem in February.
Is it 3700 North in Orem or Provo? Is it at the top of the hill?
It's like halfway down the hill. Orem 800 South,
So it's west of the traffic circle that's on 3700 North?
Yes. Okay. So it's like right on the hill as you're almost to the bottom.
Yeah, it's west of the river, so.
Yeah. Good point. After the bike ride with Orem and Provo, we talked about what should we do next? And one of the very next things was, hey, you ought to present this to the citizens committees, to TMAC, see what they think, see if it should be pursued, or if you know something, if the community might be in favor of it.
because you can't really do much until it's actually on a current plan, right? So this is where we are. Mag would love to have given the cities this nudge and have Provo and Orem work together to keep things moving along. But yeah, community buy-in, do we do some tactical urbanism projects? Yes, Lisa.
It says determine if there should be traffic calming on the southernmost mile. Is that because it's a hill and people go faster, or because there's more traffic coming in and out?
More traffic, more on-street parking.
Well, no speed humps either.
Yes.
Because further north there are, okay.
Wait, southernmost, so
There's a little
no speed humps, what portion are you talking?
Provo section. Orem has
From like about University Parkway?
north of the Parkway, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where it goes into Orem before it jumps back into Provo.
Right.
Isn't the southernmost mile like behind Rancho Market, that hill that goes up from the
Okay.
apartments up there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like the only good street to get up that hill,
yeah.
all those houses.
Little
There's some change, we have to look at how we get down off that
Really,
hill.
really, it's from like Cole
And merge
down to
it with the
Rancho
traffic.
Market.
Coming down that hill is a little
Traffic
tricky.
calming.
So going around it's probably a little more comfortable just because it's a pretty steep hill.
I think that's what you see on the 2013 plan, is a little jog toward the end, because as a fit young adult, I can barely make it up that steep little section right behind.
Yeah, I was like, I wouldn't want to go up it, I would go down.
So what we're looking at is, we're not trying to get to the details of it, that will all have to be designed and looked at, but it's kind of the overall feeling of working with Orem to connect whole trail through there and kind of make it a nice, the word right, it's regional, but it goes through two cities, so kind of.
I'll give my maybe 5 cents. So I actually, ironically enough, 15 years ago, interned at MAG and rode this exact trail to get there every day. So, it was awesome. Like, really, for a year, I rode it, 3 days a week. But it took me a few weeks to figure out the best path because of all the different connections and when do I go up the hill into Orem? Do I do it here or do I do it here? So it is a really, really good bike path, but I definitely agree that some wayfinding or I don't know if branding is the word, but wayfinding or guidance would encourage a lot of people to use it. Because you really got to try things out to figure out how to use it to get. And that intersection with 37 and North 8 South, totally agree. Yeah, that one, totally agree. That was always the toughest part. Like, after there's enough traffic, you always have to stop, and then someone's coming down a hill, and so their speed is always highly variable. I think that would be
What we're looking for eventually is just to see if you recommend that this goes on to our bike master plan. Go ahead and ask any questions you have, or just kind of give me feedback or thoughts, and then when we update the master plan, that would be a recommendation we would give to the planning commission. TMAC would like to see this as an addition.
I mean, I definitely would. I wish I would have thought of it or noticed it before I used it enough that I should have when we updated the plan last time. But I think that maybe just yeah, probably. But yeah, it's a really useful route, and it's a great alternative to, hey, University Avenue is a little too far away for me to go, and no one's going to ride a bike on State Street. So it's a really great option between those two.
The one disadvantage is that good signage for bikers means that more people in cars will also know that it connects. I think a lot of the reason why it's such a secluded road is because nobody realizes that if you go around behind Kohl's, you can end up without having to make a left turn sort of a thing. So
I know now.
I know, so the dreaminess of it may disappear somewhat with publicity of a trail there.
Yeah,
Those traffic calming measures might help, though.
there's a lot of speed bumps.
There's a lot of speed bumps there.
Something that, as a longtime resident of Provo, kind of grew up in that area. It's exciting to me to see this even considered for Carnival. When I was a junior, Dad got a new BMW, and so he piled us in the back, and we went down Carterville going 70. You know, thank goodness that things, I don't enjoy riding over speed bumps, but thank goodness that things have changed there that much, that we could even consider this.
I'll add on to that. I grew up in Provo too. When I was 16, driving that road going 70, and I hit the speed bump and realized there were speed bumps.
Not a happy story, happy story.
Okay, also, there are some things you can do in the intersection so that, and you need resident buy-in on this, of course, but so that cars can only turn right, they can't go straight across, because I don't think the people living there want everyone using alternate.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about.
Well, on the north end, it now ends. Carterville used to continue on, but they built that vintage neighborhood, and I've run into issues with the private security there when I've tried to use that path like I used to. You can't go through anymore.
So that can be a problem to making it a trail?
You mean the path, like there's sort of a cul-de-sac and then you continue on a little path, that path is closed now?
It has been in times when I've gone there, but I may have been riding a vehicle that wasn't legal.
Oh.
It's kind of ironic, we're having all these confessions, but there's no police department.
I know, they missed a good meeting.
You have a good income area for you.
Yeah.
How do you plan a bike throughway over a road that has speed bumps like that? Do you cut the speed bumps a little bit so the bikes don't have to deal with them, or do they go around the side?
So
Or?
those speed bumps are in orange. So I think what would happen is we would, if we adopt this, we'll improve our section and then we'll let Orem determine, because they have that one intersection that we were talking about, that on 37th that needs to be done, but there's ways to deal with it.
Okay.
And I don't know that we're ready to tell them how to do that yet. But
I just want to make sure that we're not saying, hey, let's do this, and it's actually going to be quite unpleasant to ride.
Right, and we took, we were there with Sam, with the city engineer at Orem, and it's actually a really fun little ride.
Did you go up or down?
We went down. But I did not, I didn't take the e-bike. No. So I'm just saying it's going up will give you good exercise. So I'm just saying it's we're just looking for a recommendation. I thought it was a pretty unique thing to have in this community. And again, there's not a lot of people apparently know about it, because it was kind of, we were by ourselves. Even when we were on the road, there wasn't a lot of traffic. It was very pleasant. So I enjoyed it. I didn't know it existed.
So let me ask this question. Why wouldn't you adopt it into the transportation master plan? What would be a good reason to say this isn't something we want to do? Because if we can't think of a good reason, then that maybe answers our question.
I don't know if there's probably a lot of bike paths that we could consider and look at. I think it's good if that's a good enough reason that we can't find a bad reason to do it. That's good enough for me. But I also think there's enough positive stuff to do it. I liked how it became an interconnection to a bunch of other. It's almost an arterial trail. The governor, UDOT, said they're going to put $100 million into statewide trail programs. And I think those will probably go into arterial trails, probably not this one, but just the fact that we're now.
It will help to interconnect.
There's going to be some arterial through Utah County somewhere. It's going to hit somewhere. And it'd be nice to start thinking about it in those terms, not just the trails actually lead and have destination and utilitarianism.
I'm John Bunderson with Provo Parks and Recreation. Sorry for being a moment late. The concerns that I would share is the terminus on the north end. Provo Parks and Recreation maintains the trail section that you had concerns with access at times. My understanding is it is fully open to the public, but it terminates with our property at 4800 North, and then it's private property from that point northward. And then the designation as a trail lends that this would be a safe pedestrian space, and much of the section south of 3700 North down to University Parkway is on the road. There is no shoulder, there is no sidewalk in that section that would be, at this time, a pedestrian area. So it may be better as a bike route or another term rather than a trail section. But those would be the high-level concerns that I have in our evaluation.
What do we call 200 East?
Neighborhood Bikeway.
So could, that's the name, that's what it's sounding like to me.
So, and because I've been here not very long, my nomenclature is wrong. John is correct. The trail is what the parks does. It's very protected, and it's, you know, you're going to be safe on it in terms of cars. I use trail a little too liberally. I should have said bike pathway. So John
It definitely falls in that category because I'm envisioning something that's just a road with markings and.
And for bikes, not pedestrians.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, so a bike pathway, like, should have been, so John's correct.
The other question I had, in the transportation master plan, now it looks like it's a minor collector road, labeled a minor collector. Is that, are we good with saying let's push bikes onto a road that we're looking at as a collector in our future growth plan?
We have bikeways on collector roads. And again, roads function different ways. So if you see, it may not necessarily have high volumes and different things, but it functions as a collector because it's connecting local roads. So functionality is more critical. Volume also plays a role in it, but yeah, we're fine with it.
Do we know the traffic volume? Did you say
500 on
500?
Hollis. I think on
The drive has 500.
And it can't be that much higher on, at least the northern part of Carterville. I'm not sure the southern part goes up in UDOT traffic volume. That's what I looked at.
Another thing I like about it, I think we can do some improvements for fairly low cost, like you were saying, a lot of bang per buck if we work with Orem. Orem has a little pricier price tag on some of their stuff. But they have a big business on it. So we can work together and help it. They can work with Max.
Yeah, if it's on your plans, MAG will give you money, right?
Yeah, so it is.
There's another bonus.
Once it becomes on regional plans, you can't really improve things, but it gets on a plan. And you have to wait for that. So this is just a first step. It doesn't, this is the recommendation from your group. And it would be good to make sure we have good support. That you feel comfortable with it and knowing that it's
You talked with Bike Walk Provo, I presume, if Aaron was on the ride, and are they happy to support this? They say yes. Okay, we're talking about building community supports, making sure that officially happens.
And this before that doc would go through a public process with the district community councils and public process. So that, but Bike Walk was supportive, and so I think we want to get your recommendation, and as we move the trail master plan, I'll say trail bikeway master plan forward, that we bring things that this group feels comfortable with, but also that we get good public input and support.
And just to affirm, I did have a meeting with Bike Walk Provo yesterday, so I brought this into their attention, and they're totally fine with it. They're in supporting.
You want a motion?
Yes, although we need to correct, it's listed as the trail master plan, it should be the bike master plan.
Well, it's on, oh, okay. Wouldn't it be the transportation master plan?
We'll have two things. We're going to have a transportation master plan, but the trail master plan is like an appendix to it. So
The bike.
Bike, excuse me. Oh my goodness.
And we're calling it a bikeway instead of a trail.
Yes.
Can we call it like the Carterville Corridor instead of just the Carterville Trail?
So I was gonna call it the Carterville Bikeway,
Okay,
so
sure,
that it has
yeah.
the same name as the other.
Because I wouldn't want people to think it's just the trail.
Right, and since we're calling it Carterville Bikeway, it makes sense for it to be part of the
The
bike.
bike master plan.
Do we have a map? Do we have a map of major bike routes in Provo?
I think it was part of one of your,
It seems like this would be an excellent north-south route, right? And I mean, especially as an alternative to State Street, which we don't, it's not a great place for bikes. So, yeah, I think we're ready for a motion unless there's any other questions or concerns.
Okay, I'll make a motion. I move that, TMAC recommend adding a Carterville Bikeway to the bike master plan.
Second it.
Let's have a vote. All in support of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I just have a bit that I could share about some other regional trail efforts, if I have, might be over time.
Okay. David, how long would you like for your item?
10-15 minutes.
It might be good to just
Fairly quick.
let us do a couple, you might, because they could get with you afterwards too.
Move on and then
Yeah,
go
we
back
like,
to it.
I just like to make sure we get through the items. But,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you, to Gordon and Shauna for that, and Kehan. Okay, then let's go ahead and turn the time over to David for, street maintenance and LTAP study.
So Dave does all our road maintenance plans. We had our first bid go out today for the crack sealing. In about 2 weeks, you'll see our road overlays and our sidewalk repairs. So those will all be going out to bid over the next 2 weeks. And so we'll see if the neighborhoods are going to try to keep real good before we. If you don't like what happened. If your road should have been maintained and it wasn't.
It only took 20 years, but it looks good now.
he tried his best not to show himself to the TMAC meeting for this whole 3-4 years. Now he's
Trying to go incognito. Here we are. So every about 5 years, we have LTAP, which is works with Utah State. They come down to Provo and do a survey of our roadway. So they will drive every road of ours, evaluate it for what kind of environmental damage is done and structural damage is on the roads, and give it a rating of remaining service life. And basically from that, we can derive our management plan of how to maintain the roads in Provo and try to stretch the money that we have to make it most effective. So here's the structural distresses and some examples. So what they do is they'll take a letter grade for structural, and then quickly ahead, they'll take a number grade for environmental, and from that, they derive a remaining service life, so an RSL value. It's not a perfect science, but it gets us close to kind of what the value of the life on the roads are. So we can see structural, it's from very good to very poor, and these may be in your neighborhoods. It's probably very common to see roads that are in the fair range. Provo, we do a fairly good job of maintaining our roads, but with as many roads we have, it's hard to manage sometimes. So they came through and they rated everything on a structural distress level, and these are, fatigue, cracking, potholing, rutting, bleeding, patching, just different types of distresses that we see from the structural levels, meaning that the ground underneath the asphalt is failing. So environmental, this is transverse cracking, longitudinal cracking, map and block cracking, or raveling. This is from, mostly here in Utah, it's from our freeze-thaw cycle. It's going to be from sun wear. It's obviously environmental distresses on the road. So, and that's from a very good to a very poor, as you can see in these pictures here. So this year we had with LTAP, we went through this kind of back and forth. Originally, when they rated our roads, they took the lowest value. So if you can see here, I had a road that was rated a B3. They took the lowest value a 10 rather than 11. And that lowered our average really dramatically, compared to our study we had 5 years ago. And so we were concerned about that. So we had them look at it again, and they took the average RSL value, rather than taking the low value, they kind of took in the middle. And that kind of averaged our RSL value out to a middle ground. And looking at the study 5 years ago, based on their determination, we were spot on with that evaluation. So what they came up with is our RSL values, our average road life in Provo was about 11 3/4 years old. So meaning that if we let those roads go, they'd have 11 years left of life until they were gravel again. And that's kind of that's a harsher way to put it. They really can last a little bit longer, but they get very, very rough. So we have 266 centerline miles in the road, or in the city, and this is their result. So you can see here, kind of the green is your fair roads, or your good roads, your yellow are your fair, and your red are pretty rough. And so for the most part, Provo is actually in a really good place. We aim to keep our average above 9. 9 is kind of a tipping point. And so after we got this study, we've kind of reevaluated how to do maintenance and really put in a lot of work to come up with our next 5-year plans to use our money the best we can so that we can keep as many roads in the 15 to 20-year range. That's kind of where we like to see them. If it dips below 7, it gets a little bit harder to maintain. It just gets super expensive. So this is kind of the breakdown. You can see there's a large majority here. And so we're taking steps in the next 5 years to try to push this back up into the 15, 20 range. And that's kind of going to shift what we do for our maintenance. So currently right now we sit about 5% in what would be considered the fail range. And so we're looking at how we can reconstruct those for the next years as well. So with road maintenance, you see this graph here. Typically, the dashed line is how a road ages. It just, about 20 years is what we give an asphalt road. And if you just don't do anything, it gradually just decomposes and fails. So what we like to do is a routine maintenance about 5 years in, 5 to 7 years. And that adds anywhere from 3 years to 5 years to that life. A couple years later, we'll do a preventative, which can add 5 to 7 years. Another peak here, and then we kind of let it go for another 7 to 10 years, and then we can do a rehabilitation on it, and that would bring it back up to the 20 years, or 15 to 20 years life. So it kind of resets that. This shows kind of where the typical range of those preventative, routine, rehabilitation applications are, and the costs associated with it. So if we're doing routine maintenance, it's relatively cheap. It's about 10 cents a square foot, 10 to 15 cents a square foot. And if we let roads go to failure, it can be anywhere from $2 to $6 a square foot, and the cost dramatically increases. So in Provo, we focus on 3 kind of main rehabilitation maintenance items that we do. So we have our routine, which is crack seal and slurry seals. So this is a surface treatment. It blackens the road. It keeps, it prevents sun damage to the asphalt. It seals the cracks from water damage and prevents some of those environmental issues from arising for a couple of years. Preventative, so this is kind of the sweet spot we're in right now, where a lot of our roads in that 8 to 12 range are microsurfacing. So this is going to be kind of a slurry seal, but a grittier surface, or a slurry seal. It's got more aggregate in it, more rock. And that's going to add surface tension, is going to add surface friction. Thank you. It's going to add surface friction, and so this is going to add about 5 to 7 years to our pavements, and that's kind of what we're focusing on the next couple of years, is really heavily hitting microsurface so we can get those roads back to a good condition. They're smoother, so they have more friction, and then they're not going to deteriorate as fast. And then every year we do focus on a good chunk of rehabilitation. We take a large sum of our money to mill and overlay roads. We focus mainly on collector and arterials while trying to hit the really poor areas of local roads, just so that we have good flow in the city and keep those roads functioning well. So this is really small, so let me pull these up actually really quick. Maybe not. I had to deal with this. I apologize. But you can see it here on the left is our current year plan. So this will be done this summer. Our red roads are our local roads that will mill and overlay. Purple are micro surfacing. Our orange are slurry seals, and our green are our collector mill and overlays. And so that's kind of what we're focusing on this year. And then this map on the right is our 5-year plan. This 5-year plan does not show our slurry seals. It gets really kind of colorful when we do that, because slurry seal we can do immense amount just because of how cheap it is. So I kept that off of this 5-year plan, just to kind of show our mill and overlays and micro surfacing for those 5 years. I'm happy to provide these maps if you want to see them a little bit closer after. Yes?
Does your rehab process make it so you don't actually have to reconstruct roads?
That's what we try to get away with. So
always stop there and just keep going back to that point?
Yeah, so with our mill and overlays, a lot of the time we'll put in a remove and replace item for our contractor to do. So we'll go through, if there's heavy trenching or there's settling in the road, we'll have them hog out all the underground material, put in new good material to help stabilize that. So so we don't have to do a full reconstruct of a whole road. We kind of do spot reconstructs as we need. We did that last year, the year that we're just finishing up right now. We did that a lot. We were focused up here, kind of in the northeastern area. And I would consider that we can reconstructed the majority of the roads in, what was that road? No, not that one. I can't remember. It's off of Tempview Drive.
Quail Valley?
No, not Quail Valley. I apologize. I can't remember the name, but they were really bad. We got up there and we were sinking trucks into the mud, and it was just clay right under the asphalt. And so we hogged out a ton of material and we reconstructed those roads. So it was a longer process this year, and the residents were as patient as they could be, because it took a lot longer. Usually we're in and out within 3 or 4 weeks. And up here in that area, it took about 2 months to get everything put back together. So we try to avoid that as much as possible. And so we do spot repairs when we do our mill and overlays, but sometimes we can't get away from that. So we did.
Most of what we see is this rehab process. They're not actually.
Correct.
So one of the things to note is you'll see a subdivision that goes in, and then 2 to 3 years later, you'll see us go do an overlay on that. And what we do is we require the developer to give us that money, and we hold it for the 3 years, and they're paying for that. Because when they're doing that subdivision, they'll build the road, and then for 3 years, there's heavy truck traffic, they're delivering all the materials, and so we can immediately rehab the road, and it kicks it back up to that 20-year life. And so some of these roads that are failing, the ones that are really bad, are 60, 50 years out that we're not built with current standards. So we're seeing with our current standards, with our typical, base and the foundations they're doing much better. They got a much better life. And so some of these, we're watching these roads just fall apart, and there's no way to fix it because the bases wasn't put in. There was material that just wasn't appropriate. And so that's where it costs us a ton of money, is coming back and fixing those.
And that also could explain why it seems like new subdivisions are getting new roads faster than the old subdivisions, because there's that money set aside specifically for that when the construction is done.
Yeah, we get a lot of complaints. My road's working, and
okay.
we agree.
That's interesting.
But the neighborhood paid through the developer cost to have that road done. So it is a good process. We feel like it's important. Roads are really expensive, so you really have to pay attention to them every year. We've had some problems with up in the mountains where movement of roads, and you just can't fix it because the ground's still moving. You could pave it, but so we have issues that we're dealing with that are different and unique. But Dave's correct. We're very focused on making the dollar stretch the most, so we keep most of our roads in that really good spot, so they're well running.
So the roads that I was talking about, last year was Scenic and Crestview, right off of Cynthia. And so if you saw anything up there, we had a lot of issues up there, but they should be holding up fairly well for the next couple of years. So
I actually grew up on Scenic Drive. My
Yeah.
mom was there, so it's built on top of a sandbar.
Right.
It was a huge mess.
Right, so those were old county roads that we adopted in the city and didn't bring up to standard, and so we figured that out, I guess.
Yeah. The other thing was we coordinate with other utilities. So every year, Dave gets with all the other utilities to determine if we're cutting the roads. If developments are coming, we may postpone a year, so we're not just cutting the road right after we fix it. So there's a lot more coordination than Dave just gets to pick which are the worst roads to go. Sometimes he can't do the road. We had some bad roads last year that were supposed to be done, but there was a storm drain project, so we had to wait, delay projects. So it's not that it's all just, we get to decide.
It's not a perfect science. It's something that evolves with time and based on budget and what's most needed. Some things change. So we're seeing some things this year with the freeze thaw cycle we're getting right now in the last month. We're seeing some delamination on some of our roads. And so we may shift some things around. That's why we have this such a big red lettering here on the top, is subject to change. It really is. I've put this 5-year map together. Will it happen exactly like this? I doubt it. But this is kind of our goal, right? Like this is what we want to focus on, what we feel is the worst. And as we, look at increasing budget or finding new ways to maintain our roads, this will obviously change. And so it's an art. We're trying to perfect it, but we may never perfect it here in Provo. It's such a finicky thing, our roads. So that's kind of what we're doing with our roadways, yeah.
You're getting a good balance between repairing some of the oldest, most difficult ones, and then those preventative measures that are seemingly effective and so much more cost effective. 10 cents per square foot versus $6 per square foot.
Yeah.
It seems wise to put some of that funding into those preventative measures.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Even right, I believe Ninth West, when that one got redone, that's when the bicycle infrastructure was added in. Was when we did that, when the layer went in. So the plan calls for some of these, but it won't be implemented until some of the measures are taken on the road, correct?
correct, yeah. And sometimes, and we'll coordinate those things with this project on occasion, when it makes sense. So, yes, Dave.
You don't know me, I'm David Day, I'm with, Public Works. I've been here a while. But there is a lot of really solid information that is economic, roads cost less. So if you added up some of the numbers that David is presenting to you, $6 a square foot, we could maintain a good road for almost 70 years for $6, where it costs us $6 to fix one road. So it's really important to put funding into maintenance, even though it's not really glamorous.
Please do
Take care of what you
a
have.
comparison between
And
the
it really,
I sent to Ryan Pullman. Consider.
right. It's really important to spend that money on the roads, and it really is true that good roads cost less. If we could have gone back and got some of these roads, that are failing and caught them before they fail, we would spend a lot less money. There's kind of a sweet spot of how much money to spend, and that's kind of what LTAP does for us. They spend $4 million on your roads to keep them in good shape, and it'll cost you less in the long run. We actually get $2 million to spend to take care of them. So we're always on the losing end, but if our funding ever got up to where it was supposed to be, it'd actually cost us less in the long run.
David, how long have we been doing the road maintenance program? Been 10, 15 years, is that right?
On which?
Just all of it. Any road rehab that we've been doing?
Forever.
Okay.
We used to do road bonds, but with any bond that you do, you pay interest on the money. So back when Mayor Curtis was here, went through that analysis and said, hey, let's stop spending money on interest payments. Spend it on fixing the roads. And that's when the transportation utility fee came in play and started doing that. And really, that's saved us a lot of money in the long run by having that fee place. But yeah, 30 years, there's been a pretty good track record of. I used to work for Geneva Rock Products before I worked here at Provo. I was involved in some of the overlay projects with them in Provo. And most of those projects we did were road bonds. It was a bonded, and it was, most of the bonds were around $6 million, and those in about 3 years. That would be great. It's not a good thing to do that.
Thank you for wrestling with those hard decisions then and making your colorful maps. I'm smiling and realizing that your name is David, so it's like almost a requirement to work for Provo Engineering.
It is one of the requirements.
No, that's happening.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts for us then? Is that?
No, so that's all the road rehab or the road maintenance. If we want, I can go through the sidewalk. If we don't have time, we can save that for another time, so.
Could I add something, Joy?
Yeah.
Real quick. So, you that work in public works probably know this, but for TMAC sake, the DNC road, the classification of roads that gets funding from the state, and that funding is determined partially based on our roadway miles in the city. You guys know this. I'm just curious if you know the last time the city has updated their mileage for that, because in a while we could get a little bit more funding by making sure that's updated.
We measure that very.
So we do that. It also is tied to population.
Yeah.
So they let us do that every 10 years or so in the state. We need more months.
Thanks, Clancy.
Yeah.
Good effort. Do we have, Kehan, how much time do you need for your?
Probably 5 to 10 minutes, so.
And how long for the sidewalk?
I could go through them fairly quickly, 5 minutes.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that then while you're here and you're ready. Bill?
Okay, so this was something new that LTAP added this year. We had them do this, and we had them go through the city and basically classify all of our sidewalks, existing sidewalks that we have in the city. So they had a variety of different categories that they looked at, of different, vertical separations, or tripping hazards, if it's cracked, if it's broken, if it's settled, if there's missing sections, and missing ADAs. So they kind of went through and looked at, what damage do we have on our existing sidewalks, and how much would that cost for material cost for city to replace it. So on the left here, we have all of the distress maps. So this is, broken into missing pieces, all the different things that they've categorized here. And you can see that it's a very populated map. And it looks a lot because there are quite a few. There's about 5,200 vertical separations, so tripping hazards. ADA classifies anything over a 1/4 inch as a trip hazard. So 1/4 inch to 2.5 inches is about, or to 2 inches about where we, have tripping hazards in the city. We have very few over that. And we're launching a new project this year to really help kind of take down the trip hazards. We're going to spend good maybe $25,000 to $50,000 on trip hazards. It's a relatively cheap and easy way. We just go and grind them down. It's not the most glamorous way. Obviously, we all want new sidewalk, but we can do this relatively cheaply to help mitigate some of those trip hazards. Everything else, missing sections, if it's broken, that's going to be a little bit more expensive. And so each year we put out a sidewalk replacement project that looks at fixing those issues. Here on the right, we have this image, and these are all of our ADA ramps. So in the green are ADA ramps that are present. So that means there's a ramp and the detectable warning panels. The red is where we're missing either both ramp and panels, or just panels, or just a ramp. Sometimes we have some cases where there are panels but no ramp. I don't know what happened there, but it's okay. We'll figure it out. So this year we as part of our road rehab project, so I guess last year, we went to the Provo neighborhood here on the east side, and we put in about 60 ADA ramps, and kind of focused our money on that. It didn't go as far as we'd hoped, the money that we have available. ADA ramps are significantly more expensive than replacing sidewalk. And so we're trying to find a good balance of that. Obviously looking for more money, so that we can help kind of speed this process up. But there is about 2,300 ADA ramps in the city that are missing. And so that's very significant for our walking community and biking community.
Are there two different counts, so one side of the freeway and the other?
Yeah, so that's where the freeway is at, right there. So here's.
Yeah.
If there's a ramp.
No, there's.
Oh, you mean at the bottom?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
There's
yeah.
2 reds and 2 greens.
Yeah, so this is if there's a ramp present. So this says that there isn't a ramp present. And this, on the right side, this is if there's a warning present. So there are 500 ramps that are not present, but have no warning. But then there are these that there's a ramp present, but no warning. It's kind of confusing. So it's that old standard where it's just kind of, it dives into the concrete, but there's no ADA like panels. There's no truncated domes. That's the right side columns. I apologize for the confusion, but this is, there is a ramp, but it's not to the ADA standard. Yeah.
So we still have to replace those to be ADA compliant, and there's a federal requirement for us to do that. So we still have to replace them even though they may exist.
Yeah. So here is the two maps. So this is all of the sidewalks that we have in the city that are currently constructed and built. And again, the color coding, darkest green is no problems with it, to orange is there's going to be some problems. So they kind of just did an overall average for each block, and kind of made a rating score through there. So overall, the sidewalks in Provo City are generally pretty good. We do have our trip hazards and things like that we're trying to focus on. But overall, sidewalks that are existing are fairly good. We went through and had this map created internally. This is all the sidewalk that is missing in the city. So there's no sidewalk constructed. There's probably no curb and gutter as well. And it's about 100 miles of sidewalk that is missing in the city. And so these projects are not included in our sidewalk replacement project. Obviously, we're looking to replace hazards and to bring up the existing sidewalk. This is something that we're looking at to see if this can be capital projects or a different funding source, because this will be very expensive. A lot of the time we don't own property. There will be power poles, utilities, a lot of other things that will go into these projects to put in sidewalks. So
would it be useful knock off things like Lakeview Parkway that have the multi-use path right next to it?
So that is
100 South, that's the Union Pacific right of way.
We could knock that off. That's one thing, is there is that path on the south side. As development happens, that north side will have a sidewalk eventually. So
what is considered missing, even though?
It's kind of a gray area. We'll say it's missing, even though the road's not fully constructed through there. We could say that some of it's not yet to be constructed. So that could be some gray area there, as well as, some other areas, Center Street, some of the roads down here. So for the most part, I tried to take off roads that weren't constructed yet, but there is some gray area there.
So they're either a capital project or the developers will do it. So if you look, there's places the developers will do it, but then there's places that are developed, and so it's got to be a capital project at some point.
Does the state pay for some of those? Because some of those are state roads.
So if it's part of a state project, the state will look at installing sidewalk. We will maintain those after usually. Typically, we don't go onto state routes to install that.
And they won't install the sidewalk unless it's a project they're doing. So
Yeah.
if they have a road that has no sidewalk, they'll leave it forever until they rebuild the road, then they will put in the sidewalk. So very difficult to entice them just to come and do a sidewalk project.
There are cases, so on Geneva Road, we've gone after like Safe Routes money to install a sidewalk out there, and we've done that a couple of times to kind of put that on UDOT's radar. But also, if we do get money, then we could put sidewalk on the UDOT roads. So.
Out of those 5,200 trip hazards,
Yeah.
how many of those will be fixed this year with this year's funding?
I don't have a number yet. We're in the preliminary process for that, but we're going to probably aim for 250 to 500 of them.
And again, remember that over the next 3 years, more trip hazards are going to be created. So it's not like once we get them done, we're done. It's always the
It
case.
just means that a portion of the city each year gets to ride their scooters.
Exactly, right.
For a few years.
You have
Then
a
they have to take a
recommendation?
break.
Until the trees get a hold of the sidewalk or, whatever it is, but then we'll be back. So.
Do pedestrian count factor into which sidewalks you grind?
So kind of they do. So what we're going to try to do this year is focus on safe routes to school. So we're going to focus on school routes. That's probably the heaviest traffic that we're going to get, right? So we're gonna find some things. I'm having my coworker put that project together. We're going to look at, where, both using LTAP data of where is the most clustered, where are trip hazards happening. If they're on a school route, great. So typically it's about $100 per trip hazard to grind. And so that's kind of the range that we're looking at. So.
And the problem is if we do it citywide scattered, it's more expensive. If we can kind of clump them, even though this may be higher, we can do a little spread out, but it'll cost us more to do less.
Yeah, and that's both with the trip hazards or our sidewalk replacement project. Our concrete crews like to go to an area and knock out as much as they can. So it looks like we're not doing the whole city, which I'll show in this map. So this is our project for this year. And so we're kind of what we're doing is we're focusing on road rehab projects for next year, and then the surrounding area is something that we're trying out to see if we can get road rehab a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more quicker, so we don't have roads open as long. So we're going to see if we can switch that to our sidewalk replacement project to try to focus on those areas ahead of time. And so here we're focusing, up here in the Timpview area, we're focusing a little bit on Canyon Road. Here on, I believe this is 7th or 8th West, a little bit on 6th South, down here in just north of the Novell building. I can't remember who's in there right now. Yes. So that's kind of what we're focusing on right now. And this isn't also one of those things that just changes per year. We don't put a 5-year plan together for this, although you could go to our road rehab 5-year and say, we'll probably focus in those areas moving forward. So and that's all I have. So if there's any questions.
I have a question about funding. There's transportation utility fee and B&C roads. Is your funding ever conflicting with new lane mile funding? Or is it like very separate buckets, or do you get to kind of like make a little slider in engineering to say, this is how much we're devoting to new roads and this is how much we're devoting to maintenance?
So with the utility fee, we put 100% in road maintenance. That goes solely there, no sidewalk. The B&C road funds will pull out $500,000 a year for sidewalk, and then that is split with some other stuff, and a portion of that goes to our road maintenance.
Good question. All right, last item for today, Kehan, on our capital project update, speaking of funding.
Let's see here. Not yet. I checked this morning, yesterday. Nothing. So I'll keep checking, but hopefully by the end of the month, that's what they're saying. So
We have
2 more weeks.
State streets.
Oh, yeah, right.
The action plan. Sorry, I should have mentioned that. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. So for our capital improvement projects, for this year that we're working right now, I have applied for a couple CDBG funds for different neighborhoods. This is the Joaquin neighborhood. I spoke to their neighborhood chair, President yes, thank you. He did have some concerns. He wanted basically more like a corridor designated as safe path for students to get to 800 North so they could use that and kind of make it to the campus. He did mention that he wants things like bulb outs where the length of the travel for the pedestrians are decreased, some better lighting, flashing beacons, and things of that nature, and crosswalks where it's needed. And he was hoping to get these improvements be done along 500 North for 300, 400, 500, 600 along one of these corridors, or possibly multiple of them. If I make improvements on just one, let's say 400 East from 500 North to 800 North, you're looking for about almost 1.5 million for all those improvements. So this is going to look like it's going to be a multi-phase, at least 3-4 years of CDBG funding to get improvements along, like I said, one corridor to make improvements for each of the intersections. So what I'm doing right now, I'm doing a study to find out what's the best route that students are taking the most, and then kind of start focusing towards that, and then just use that and build a corridor from 500 to 800 North.
And we're going to be taking this to the neighborhood district community council. So we want a lot of public input. So we're not going to say what the improvements are. We want to get their input. So their intent is to have some ideas, talk about it. So even though we're getting the funding, we're not saying what the project is yet. We're just saying it's going to be that. And then once the community tells us, we get their input, then we're going to work with them on the improvements.
So again, for this year, this is close to where the new elementary is going to be built. So 560 North, 700 North, and this is 1200 East. There's a section of sidewalk that's missing. So I do have a separate application for this area. If funded, we'll get the connection between these two to install new sidewalk there. And again, this is pretty close to where the school will be built. So somewhere southwest, the school is going to be built down there. And this is the Oak Cliff Drive, so 1450 East, Oak Cliff Drive, Oakmont Lane. Again, sidewalk is missing all the way. So another application to put to install sidewalk, along with some other improvements, ADA ramps, as well as crosswalks to provide a safe route for students.
Well, you know how extremely
That
steep
hill
that
is
grade is.
Very
So if you put in some of those ADA bumpy surfaces, is that what you're thinking to help with traction, or?
Haven't thought about specifics yet,
Okay.
but that would be something that, again, we'll have a meeting with the chair as well as the neighborhood, because this is a school area, maybe the school district as well, listen to their opinion and then kind of go from there.
Because this is a new safe route that didn't used to be a safe route.
It wasn't, but it will be through the school.
Yeah.
And so it's super, super steep, very difficult to walk up or bike up that road.
Yeah.
And it's super scary to go down that road.
Yeah.
And so, however, we do, in order to have a safe walking route, you have to have sidewalk. If you don't have sidewalk, then it's not.
There's no sidewalk on either side on that strip, right?
No.
That's true.
Not the north or the south.
No, that's true.
That's our steepest road in Provo.
Right.
Okay.
It's 23.5.
We don't do that anymore, just so you know.
I want you to know my e-bike can't go up that hill.
I'm sure I have. I was in the wind to put up that.
I have tried, and it is, I think the battery.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then this is our Lakeview Parkway. So our phase 4, that's completed. We do have that entire section built out now. So our phase 4 is completed. Just an update on that. Yep. And then again, Lakeview Parkway. So these are the sections that are ongoing. We're working on widening these sections. So that's an ongoing project.
We're going to probably be doing a lot of focus to widen between the airport and I-15, because with the regional park and all the stuff going in there, we think we just there's just value in making it safer and maybe getting that piece in there sooner.
Versus waiting for developers to do that widening?
Yeah, so we're having some good internal discussions on that, and we'll be bringing that to the council with a full decision, you know, with a recommendation on how that should go. So we have some good ideas, but I think building it further, we won't have very much traffic. This is where we're having a lot of traffic. So you'll see that come through.
This is 200 North Geneva, so the signal. 2000 North Geneva, thank you, yeah. The signal, there will be a signal. We did have a power pole, so I know that our power department was working to take care of the pole. That was kind of holding off the project for a little bit, but that has been taken care of. So the signal should be going here anytime soon. For next year, this is another CDBG project that we're looking, this is 600 South, 100 West. We'll be putting sidewalk where we're currently missing sidewalk.
And right here, they're under construction with the pedestrian overpass. So we want to have those open together so that people can walk to it, that last mile.
Did the railroad finally?
I think so. I think it's done now. Everything's
They're
done.
doing
I saw a
earthwork.
hole.
Like
Somebody
they're doing
dug a hole.
They must have the.
They're right now only working on the UTA property because of issues, but I believe after the 24th, when you say things, the 24th is the golden date. What is it today? Oh, we got fun. Okay, they're fine. Okay.
We got time.
It should open this year, this winter.
This is our 3900 North project. That was where we put the new curb and gutter close to the park where there will be a new park. That's the road project, Tenview, connecting Tenview to Canyon Road. That has been completed. Sierra Vista, ongoing. We finished with some utility work. And then for the winter, I believe currently we don't have any work going on, but once the weather allows, there will be the rest of the sidewalk on the west side, I believe, and some other road improvements will happen along Sierra Vista.
Border with Springville,
Behind the Mexican restaurant on the corner and the street corner.
1400 North Springville.
That was fun.
That's essentially a bike throughway as well. It takes them off the street.
Yeah, you don't want to ride your bike down State Street.
And then, again, for this year, 600 West, so there will be, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put some storm, and this was a project that we have been planning on doing for past maybe 2 years or so, and we've been kind of holding off mainly because of the railroad. Yep, we were planning on getting our storm all the way across the railroad to the south side. We did hire a firm, a consultant firm. They were doing their geotech studies. I'm pretty sure they're pretty close to getting done with the study. So, but for next year, what we're planning on doing is making some road improvements along this side of the road, along as well as storm drain, and then another storm drain, and then making road improvements on this section as well as the what is that? Is that 500 South? 7th West, and I think this is 560 South, yeah.
So that 560 and 600 West, those are some of our worst roads in the city.
Yes.
So we should have done them earlier, but we were waiting for the storm drain to catch up to us. And so next year, those will be paved, and those residents will actually have asphalt, so it'll be good.
Yeah, so that would be storm drain, curb and gutter, and then new road. Pit Bridge, like Gordon mentioned, that's still planned for 2023, so that's an ongoing project. Currently, we're working on that, hopefully the construction, and we'll get done with it.
I had a question about the last slide.
Sure.
Where the railroad track crossing, is there any active transportation upgrade planned in that at all?
No, currently no.
It's just the road.
Yeah.
The road will probably be fairly similar. Right there is only going to be the storm drain. The only road pieces that we're really doing are the two other pieces.
Yes.
So.
That is a quiet crossing. Password.
Are there sidewalks there on that section? So would you be putting sidewalks in too?
Not on, so that will only be digging a hole in the ground, putting a pipe, covering up the hole. It won't be asphalt, sidewalk, and curb and gutter, that piece is 700. 700 West is just the pipe.
And most of our road improvements, curb and gutter and road, will be this section,
So
right?
what's the difference between the purple and the red then? I thought purple was storm drain.
So purple is storm and the red is road work, but in this case, the road work will be related to the storm drain, cutting the road and kind of fixing it back or repatching it. We went through the Pit Bridge, and then University Avenue, Canyon Road. This is an ongoing project. We do have our temporary project on there. We did close that free flow into Canyon Road. Currently, we're working with BYU. As part of this project, we'll be putting a sidewalk basically along, once obviously the road is realigned, Canyon Road is realigned, there will be a sidewalk kind of going along this way and then reconnecting to wherever we have the existing sidewalk. There will be a portion of basically excess land that will be no use to Provo City. So that will be something that we're going to think about. Most likely we'll dedicate it to BYU as part of our portion paying to them. That will kind of be taken into consideration, that we'll dedicate it to them, and they could use it for, in this case, most likely for installing or putting more parking stalls. That's what they mentioned from their end. So this is an ongoing project. We are working with Starbucks on the northeast corner. There will be a very small portion of their property that will be affected by this project as part of the realigning, obviously, that intersection. We're working with them to get the construction easement and whatnot. So that's where we are right now. Again, next year, this is the UDOT 300 South project. So this project was officially postponed to next year instead of, it was planned initially for this year. And that's from University Avenue to 500 West, the road pavement project.
How is it postponed?
Partially because of some right-of-way, as well as, they're going to be widening the sidewalk. We don't have enough width for sidewalk, and as part of that, they had to talk to the owners on both sides.
Time to do the land.
Time, exactly, land, yep. So that's where we at. And that's it. Any questions?
Is this the stuff that's going in CIP
Yeah,
document?
we'll have some additional ones that the city council look at, but this gives you kind of an overview of some of the things that are happening. As we get those more formalized, we'll show you each of the projects so you can kind of see what they're looking like.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience with our packed agenda today. I know our meeting went a little bit over, but lots of good information today. So do we adjourn? I say we are ready to adjourn unless there's any final comments or questions. Great. Thanks, everyone. See you next month.
Thank you.
And if you want to talk to Mag.
I would, yeah.
Sounds
Good. That authority.
Donna, I'm sorry we didn't have time to do a little more.
Oh, no, that's fine. That was a great conversation. I could have cut some things out. You guys know what a bike-way is.
You're just facilitating. Or you're saying, here's money.
Yeah, that's
We'll
what
go
I
out
was
and get
trying to
money.
get at. So once it's on your plan, you can then, it's regionally significant, connecting facilities in your